What's going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, September 7th. We are 3 days removed from my birthday, 4 days removed from All Out, 14 days removed, more than that, from All In. I'm not a math guy. That's not my thing, and it's not the point either. Today, we're going to actually talk about the fallout from All Out, AEW Dynamite from last night, as well as our traditional Throwback Thursday segment. But before we do so, let me introduce you to my panel tonight. Two of my good buddies, first and foremost, head of opinions out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, weighing in at, I don't know, Anthony Ricciardi.
You gotta plug that, don't you? This is the first time, other than the Take It recording that we did, this is the first time I'm doing a show with the savior of Darby Allin from All Out. So I'm very excited to do the show with you as always, Clark and Shad, and very much the throwback topic for this week: Ric Flair, the real world champion, leaving an organization with the belt, which is very timely considering CM Punk also still technically has the belt. So that should be interesting.
Absolutely. We got some parallels, to say the least. And before that, though, from the DMV, we got Shad. How are you this fine Thursday? Ooh.
Logan Paul, sponsor Wrestling Republic. Anyways, yes. What's good with you guys? Anthony, Clark. Yeah. We here today, Throwback Thursday, one of my favorite days of the week. Really excited to talk about this topic, monumental moment in pro wrestling history, and a very strong Dynamite. Let's get into it, man.
I'm stoked about it too, absolutely. And Dynamite last night was one of those things where it felt like it was kind of like a must-win situation almost. Like, you know, we're getting close to October, baseball playoffs. I'm personally a baseball fan, right? And like, this felt like all in, a lot of drama after, but went well ticket sales wise, right? All Out over delivered, but there was a lot of conjecture about how the card was going to go or whether it was stacked enough. And obviously what we heard and have overly discussed about CM Punk, all of that in Chicago. Coming out of that, though, we got to build real quickly to Grand Slam here. Mm-hmm. You know, this was kind of a backs against the wall situation where you really have to deliver in some sense. And honestly, on a side note too, last night was the night of Wyndham Rotunda's service. Mm-hmm. So you have talent that missed last Wednesday and this Wednesday. This was a tough spot to be in. And I personally thought that they over-delivered, but where I thought they over-delivered the most, and this is where it's dicey and interesting, given all that perspective. We talk about Samoa Joe and MJF. We've seen the history. They discussed the history last night. The segment was off the charts. I loved Joe talking about, you were just the kid and you will always be just the kid. From the Goldberg style entrance in NXT where MJF played his security guard. Mm-hmm. You know, for anybody that does the AEW takes too many shots at WWE, that wasn't a shot at WWE. That was just a reference to something that we know really happened. Yes. That was brilliant and beautiful in my eyes, especially for the intelligent fan. It was just a delightful thing to remind us of. It was perfect timing. Mm-hmm. You sprinkle in these other little MJF jabs. Now we get to the end and it gets physical. I'm going to toss it to Shad first, and I'm going to toss it to you, Anthony. Mm-hmm. Shad, what did you think about the selling on the two shots to a particularly tendered area
I
in
mean,
this segment. Did you
yeah.
think that was all right there? Did you think they were undersold? Because before I toss it to you, I will say this. They both got up real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be one little bit of a tidbit I would say that kind of took away a little bit from the segment is just, if you're down for the count, you're down for the count. If you're truly injured, you act like you're truly injured. And that part of it, didn't hit home run to me on that end, but I mean the segment itself, to your point, was incredible as these two gentlemen are two of the best talkers in the business, and they painted a picture that made a portrait that envisions to what this feud is going to be. I always mention it. AEW to me is a renaissance, man. It's people from different indie promotions, different companies like within WWE, ROH, all of that, and they are not afraid to talk about what happened in the past. It's not a shot at WWE at all. This is stuff that both of them have prevalent in their careers, tied to WWE, tied to NXT. You're a fool if you don't mention it. It makes you more, because wrestling fans, especially fans who watch AEW, they watch about every single wrestling promotion, especially NXT, because AEW is kind of what, in my opinion, broke off and became what that black and gold was, with especially with all the talent they have to it. So you have to bring that into place. A lot of people complain about it, saying y'all AEW can't get a night without saying WWE shots. Some of that could be true, but it wasn't direct shots to it. It was more direct shots tied to him. The same thing with the William Regal line being brought up. It's tied to AEW. William Regal was truly, in kayfabe in their sense, beat up by MJF, and he went somewhere else. So it does add a little sizzle to it because you are getting the shock value of mentioning the Fed, but it's prevalent to the storyline. So I mean, the storyline itself, I'm super excited. I was, captivated by it from the pay-per-view where they played off of the same exact, shrugging them off to the side. And Samoa Joe, man, like if anybody can, anyone that can deliver a feud with him on a mic that isn't, Phil Brooks, who's not here anymore, and this is the fill-in spot for it, Samoa Joe is the right person to do it. So I'm excited for the feud. I think we're gonna have a lot of good psychology between both wrestlers going into it, and I think they're gonna give us something very excited for this New York show coming up.
I love the direction you just went with that, and that's why I kind of tried to present both sides there at the end. I apologize even for like squeezing in the silly end of the question, but I just wanted to give both sides of that kind of argument. Right? They talked about it's easy to criticize those little spots with the with the rope spots and the low blow, but it's hard to quantify how succinct that segment was outside of that. On top of that, though, we have the layer of the tournament, right? And I don't know if the tournament's worth it now. I don't know if we don't just scrap that, right?
It's difficult because you literally have two guys in a storyline with MJF that are in the tournament. So you, in a sense, don't know who could win because we still have the thing. Obviously, we'll talk about what the Roderick Strong as well. So, and that ties with Adam Cole. So you don't know where exactly that's gonna go because before this little Samoa Joe encounter happened at All Out, I was pretty sold that it'll probably be Roddy and MJF for this title match. And now there's a wrinkle in the road because now you have Samoa Joe in it. So we don't know.
I was too, and with that, I'm gonna say we're gonna actually extend this segment too, Anthony, because I want to get your perspective too, and then we'll all talk about this for a little bit longer here. We got the Sheldon show though with an awesome comment. Our good buddy David Sheldon with Evening Gentlemen, fantastic episode of Dynamite this week. Felt like such a cohesive episode. Sometimes Dynamite can feel disjointed and a little unfocused, but last night felt razor sharp. I could not agree more, and that's why we're gonna take the time to nitpick it, right? I'm totally kidding. I'm sorry, David. No, I couldn't agree more. And Anthony, here's what I'll ask you though: is if you're buying a ticket to Grand Slam after last night, is the main event that you're looking for, not Joe versus MJF, given all that we've discussed.
It's absolutely Joe and MJF. The thing that I question AEW's logic for, I don't understand why you do a tournament if you know you're doing Joe pushing MJF. Because to me, that was the moment. I had more interest instantly in that moment because you made the connection to what happened in NXT. And I had no issue with them recounting the history. Because to me, that's not a shot at WWE. That's just reciting what happened, the history. I don't have a problem with that. That's not taking a shot at WWE just to take a shot. That's going, this is what happened. When it's real life and stuff, he went for a tryout in NXT. I don't have a problem with that. Joe is phenomenal on the mic. I think people forget that at times. MJF, king of roasting people, taking the shot at Joe went, you came out here so fast. I think you thought my music was the ice cream truck, and Joe making mention of, him being on Twisted Metal on Peacock, those little things. And MJF going, no, I'm an adult. I'm a star. I'm not the kid that you pushed around. Him trying to prove himself again, it reminds me very much of his dynamic with Punk when it first started. And in a lot of ways, Punk and Joe are yin and yang. They were rivals in Ring of Honor. When MJF was watching Ring of Honor, more than likely, Punk was feuding with Joe. So, there's a lot of history there. So if Joe is taking the spot that would have maybe sort of might have been Punk, if that's where they were going with the title for title thing, I'm fine with it. Joe against MJF I'm more interested in that. But as a champion, as the world champion, all the targets are on you. You can have multiple people coming at you. Adam Cole, coming at him. Roderick Strong, the Kingdom, whoever. That makes sense. It makes sense booking wise that you'd have multiple people trying to go at you. You really shouldn't be having just one person going, Joe's the only one that wants you. No, they all should want that spot.
Right.
Austin had said for years, if you're not in this business to be the world champion, you shouldn't be in the business. Your goal should always be at the top of that card. And if you're not, why are you here? And I think that's true with this. And this is MJF's toughest challenge, really, because he hasn't faced anybody that size in Joe. And every time he's faced people, they've all been different type of challenges. Danielson was a technical side. When they did the 4 pillars, they all had unique styles. So every time he's defended this, he's defended against people with completely different styles. And I think that elevates MJF by surviving, and it elevates the title because they're competitive matchups. So I love this segment. I really want Joe and MJF. I don't know what you do with the tournament because I don't think anybody cares at this point. I think everyone would want Joe and MJF, like you said, Clark.
Yeah, that's my only trouble. And we've got a couple great comments here from David Sheldon, and I would show them if we didn't have to cover the rest of the show. Because this is just going to open up a can of worms. David, they're awesome comments.
Yeah, you can show it to them when we talk about the segment.
We can't go 70.
Yeah, but we just don't have the time, David. I love it. Here we go. Here we've got one from Twitch from Montanez.
Twitch, what up?
1998. I think Joe versus MJF and Adam Cole. Don't mind it. I will show the Sheldon comments. He deserves it. It's David Sheldon. Even that's the one I already showed. Here's my pitch. I think Adam Cole is going to cost Samoa Joe the final and give Roddy the match at Grand Slam, with Samoa Joe getting the match at Full Gear. And we are not opening this can of worms, guys, because I will say one thing. I personally believe it's too big of an important show in New York City to risk swerving fans that believe they're going to see Samoa Joe versus MJF.
You don't do a swerve finish on a big show.
I think it's too big of a risk to take there. As much as I don't hate the idea. The reasoning then being up in the air between whether Cole is protecting MJF from Joe because of his neck or whether Cole is helping Strong get a title match. furthering so many different stories. I hear that with the parallels on the neck thing. I think that's how we lead to Joe Roddy. I think that's a Dynamite match that isn't at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York City.
Yep.
You know, this is an event that was so huge the first year and actually undersold the second year. Oddly, it was bad timing. Weather was bad. Different scenario. I completely understand. There are other excuses to be made, but this is kind of a can't miss one. And you really, really, really gotta sell. You gotta sell Grand Slam out.
I think in a lot of ways they view Grand Slam like a pay-per-view that's not technically a pay-per-view. So yes. I agree with you. You don't do a swerve finish on that.
And so I, of course, unintentionally opened this can of worms anyway. And Montanez, 1998, MJF versus Roddy and Kyle returns. That would be great. It's hard to sell out a stadium that's undersold currently. I was listening to Busted Open Radio this morning. Shout out Bully Ray. He mentioned even the low blow spot that I had mentioned earlier. I had similar feelings. I thought it was brilliant the way that it was broken down on that show. Not to shout out other show besides ours, but I will say it made a lot of sense. And he and Dave LaGreca mentioned only 6,500 tickets out of 22,000 have been sold, and we had 17 last year. And so that's my biggest concern. Is Joe and MJF, that poster sells, not just the tickets.
The question is if the aura has worn off of the specialness of doing Arthur Ashe for wrestling fans. That's a concern because it's not selling just on the fact that it's being there. It needs a card. But I know we need to move on.
People call New York, before we do though, people call New York, Philly, DC, Chicago, walk-up cities. Not walking up to see this show.
Not on a Wednesday night when people got work.
You feel that one. You feel that one. And
kids are back in school.
Back in school Saturday maybe, but I'm not taking a New York trip on a Wednesday when I got. Yeah. All the summer vacation PTO gone. Sorry.
Absolutely. Let's run through these next two quick because we got such a fun throwback topic too, guys. All right. So we've got the Orange Cassidy promo with John Moxley, and then of course the AR Fox match. Anthony, I'm just going to toss it directly to you. What do you think about all of this? Talk a little bit about Orange Cassidy's run, though, for me, and where you think he's going from here.
I really enjoyed the run, making him really competitive and not so much the slacker, but his matches, he had fire. And to me, that's where I was interested in him. I wasn't into, and I've said this before, I don't like the little taps and kicks. They take me out of matches because it's not competitive. If you're just tapping a guy, like it takes the competitiveness out for me, but he's doing less of that. So I'm glad. I think he needs to do away with it altogether and show more of that fire like he did show. I think that title reign helped him and it helped the title. I'd argue that's probably the most prestigious title in the company outside of the world title and maybe the TBS. The rest of them, they changed them at like that. Like the TNT's a joke. It's the 24/7 title of the company. As far as Moxley and AR Fox, I feel bad with AR because I feel in a lot of ways he's just being punished and pushed to the side because of the whole fiasco over whether or not he was able to travel internationally. So that whole storyline went to hell. I think, jobbing him out as quickly as they did to Moxley. And I really don't like the convoluted, he completely beats down and bloodies somebody that Darby looked at like a little brother. And now he's like, yeah, we're best friends again. Like, it annoys the shit out of me, to be perfectly honest.
I love it.
It does. It's just annoying to me. I think the interesting aspect to it is I'd be completely fine if Nick Wayne Christian adopts him and he turns heel on Darby. Because quite frankly, I don't understand how you look at somebody you look at as a big brother and all of a sudden, like, that guy left me bloody and now you want to be friends with him again? Like, what the hell is that? Like, it makes no sense and it drives me nuts. The only logical thing I think you could do is turn Nick Wayne heel on him because otherwise, I don't know what this is. I really don't get it. But, that's just my take.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's so fascinating too. And it's funny. Like we've been talking about AR Fox on this show for a long time.
Mhm.
Like a lot of us are big AR Fox fans. Like
Mhm.
it's not just you, it's not just me, it's not just
Yeah.
Shad. A Chaos. I believe Drizzy's a huge AR
Mhm.
Fox fan. Like we are all big AR Fox fans. And when it went down, we loved the video
Yes.
of in the garage, the Buddy Wayne, all of
Mhm.
that stuff. It was like, okay, this is it. And he
Yeah.
looked so great. And then they just took that magic carpet out from under us. Like not
I
just
knew.
us, but AR Fox. It's
I'm
not
still
even
justice for AR Fox still to this
Yes.
day.
Honestly, when they announced last night, they're
the
like, "Oh,
worst.
Moxley's going to defend the title against AR Fox." I went, "Okay, you're just jobbing him out then." Like
He's
straight
so
up,
talented.
you're punishing him because you, as an organization, did not know before you booked the match that this guy can't travel internationally. That's on AEW. You know, you're going to blame him for that.
Where's your HR helping with travel? Come
Well,
on.
here's the thing.
Make
No
sure
one
your whole talent gets over there clean.
you
What
figure that out
kind of
before you book
organization
the
messes
match.
that up?
Yeah,
Are you kidding?
that's a
Like,
complete screw up on their part.
That's
Absolutely.
not on, even if it's a paperwork issue, it's not fully on AR Fox. If he's booked too late,
It's always on the company.
it's
not.
on the company. Yeah, it's a joke.
Here's the thing. Now, if he straight up knew that he couldn't fly internationally,
Well, then, yeah,
then yeah, I understand the heat being on him.
I'm not buying that for a guy that works that hard.
But I'm just saying, we don't know why he can't travel internationally. But I'm just saying, like, if this was just AEW,
like Becky Lynch had a ripped passport.
If this was AEW just putting in paperwork or some crap like that, that's on them. That ain't on him.
It isn't.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. With that, though, let's talk about even more. Let's stay on AR Fox. Let's stay on Darby Allin. Let's stay on Nick Wayne. Sean, I want to get your thoughts on Darby versus Nick Wayne. How does AR Fox factor into this? If he does, and then what do you think about the whole?
AR Fox doesn't factor into anything. AR Fox's momentum is completely shot and is done. He's put into this match with Moxley, as Anthony said, quick match, jobbed out. That's it. There's no momentum with AR Fox anymore. Any life, any pulse he had with that captivating segment of them beating that young child to a bloody pulp is completely done. The moment you had him get beat up by the Mogul Embassy, and now you have him walking out with Darby. Like, I agree with Anthony 100%. He looks like a fool. You look so silly, man. Like, Darby looks so silly as well. Like, it's just completely washed away. This guy's gonna go back to what he was doing prior. He's gonna be in these little matches. He's gonna be one of these high flying guys that's gonna lose to a person that's more higher to the totem pole or a bigger style wrestler or more dominant wrestler. He's gonna make him look good, and that's it. Like, you had the only way that AR Fox was gonna succeed was a continuation with the Mogul Embassy and working with Swerve. You take that underneath his feet and take the rug off of his feet, it's done. So AR Fox to me is not a factor. And if he is a factor in it, I have no interest in it at all anymore. And I like AR Fox a lot. He's an incredible wrestler. But it as a fan, you're not gonna mess with my common sense off that. But anyways, off of him, I am intrigued with what can happen with this Nick Wayne and Darby dynamic because, like Anthony said, you add Christian Cage to the mix, and I think Christian Cage is the blurred line that can make this go to the moon for Nick Wayne, because you got to make Nick Wayne heel. Like Anthony said, everything that has been told within this story leads to me thinking Nick Wayne is like, can I really trust you, Darby? It'll be a factor where Christian will brainwash him to be like, I don't know if I can trust you, Darby. You went back to a guy who beat me down. You're, being tough on me, as you can see in the match with them talking, basically telling him like you hit like an 18-year-old, this, that, and the third, disrespecting me as a man, because now legally I am a man. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 18. I'm hired. I work in the same business as you. You got to respect me as a man. And I think it'll be a point where you're gonna see a child grow into a man, and he's gonna get fed up with it. So if we can get to this dynamic where we can turn Nick Wayne to a heel and you can get him a feud with Darby, I think it does a lot more for his character. I know he's the boy wonder, he's the young kid, he could do all the moves in the world, athleticism. That's only half of it. You got to align him to a character. Christian Cage is way more of a captivating person to line him up with and work as a heel, and that'll be beneficial for his career than him just being Darby's little buddy from the wrestling school. You know, I feel like turning them heel and working with that will make it work. The match itself, great match. I mean, you knew that was going to be the case. Solid match, and I'm interested to see what we have at the end of it.
He could truly be our skateboarding heel. It'd be great, right? It's easy to hate the punk skateboarder, the guy that's just kind of a menace in some ways, right? Like Nick Wayne turns and he's just like the petty, petulant kid that doesn't get it, right? Like he doesn't
Just
put up
turns
with
into he turns into the angry, disobedient, F the world rebel teenager.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Yeah.
the punk teen. I dig it. I'm totally with you on that.
The delicate line, though, that they have to do, and this is the problem they have. People are going to sympathize with Nick Wayne because most people are going to look at that going, wait, he's right. This guy left somebody you consider like a little brother bloodied, and you're fine with that. People are going to sympathize with Nick Wayne, and Darby looks like the asshole. Honestly.
Whoa. Don't you talk about my friend like that. Remember, I helped him up last Sunday.
Maybe you'll tag him.
Be careful when you talk about Darby.
You know what's crazy though? Nick
buddies.
Wayne, they can kind of take a page in a way of Dominic and Rey Mysterio when Dom kind of turned on Rey. Like, why are you siding with Edge? Like, Edge, like messed me over or whatnot. I don't care if you're my. That's his dad. Obviously, he's different than this, but I'm mad that you're my family on it.
Well, and it's interesting.
100%.
If it's Christian involved, Edge and Christian, like they're just the catalyst to successful heel turns.
Don't tell Twitter this one; they're gonna run with that.
yeah, you gotta be careful on that one. Sure, do not tell Twitter. I would say let's definitely get into the next segment, which is pretty obvious. We have Swerve Strickland, who is involved in exactly what we've been talking about lately. Getting into a rivalry with one of my faves, Hangman Page, Anthony.
Yeah.
How good is this match going to be?
I think this match is going to be excellent. I am curious whether or not, because there's going to be a numbers game issue, because Swerve has, Brian Cage at his corner. I'm curious if there's a member of the Elite that will sidle up with him too, because they all seem to be involved in their own stories. I don't know if the Bucks are still involved with Quasi Bullet Club, whatever that stupid group is. I don't know. Omega is still busy with Takeshita and Don Callis. So Hangman is really not going to have any backup. And I don't really know who they're going to pull into to help him unless they throw in like Wardlow or something that would make no sense, but just to give him backup to face Brian Cage. I don't know where they're going to go with this. I think the Hangman Swerve match should be phenomenal, but when you're playing the numbers game, what are you going to do with this? Because then you fall into this category of going, well, he has friends, but they're busy with other stories, so they can't help him. So who's he going to get to help him? I think that's the only major problem that they have right now. Who do you get to help Hangman? It's not like he has a history with anybody else other than the Elite at this point.
Yeah, there aren't that many partners out there. It's a weird one. I'm with you on that. In fact, honestly, with that, let's move along to the next segment. Let's talk about Aussie Open. Wait, Shad, you got something to add?
I gotta add something, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. Because I feel that Swerve Strickland is incredibly so gifted, and I feel like the world needs to just know how great he is, because the interaction between him and Hangman Page got me so excited for a feud between them because there's so much psychology played within it. It's just so it's got me so hyped because Swerve was talking with fiery passion, and he was telling him do something like, "What are you gonna do?" He was basically calling him weak. So, and the whole storyline with Hangman is always within his self, within the parallels of his head, within the self doubt. Swerve is a mastermind. He's a master manipulator, and he's gonna push buttons that's gonna probably make Hangman go to the edge. The only thing is this: I feel like it's gonna be a pretty short, sped up feud because it's gonna lead to Grand Slam. And to Anthony's point, what do we do with the numbers game? The Dark Order are heels technically, but I don't like to get overexcited about Swerve bookings and feuds because last time I did it, we saw what happened with the match, with this whole Sting match, and him swerving on AR Fox. But that segment last night was killer, though. That's all I gotta say. Sorry about that.
No, apology accepted because it was totally unnecessary. Anthony, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, the only other option that they could do as far as a partner, because they've never paid this off. I don't think they're ever going to pay it off. Does Keith Lee come into play and he's the backup for Hangman because they have history? You know, I know there have been various reports of going, oh, AEW doesn't want to pay that off, which I think that's a mistake. But like realistically, who else do you get? You would have to go to an enemy of Swerve, like at that point. And Darby's busy now with the Nick Wayne Christian scenario, so he's not going to come into it. Sting really wouldn't fit. Because Sting's tied to whatever Darby's tied to these days. Mm-hmm. So Keith Lee's the only one, he's, in catering when they don't use him. So I think they could pull him out for this. And I like Keith Lee a lot. That's why I'm saying that. Use him.
What do y'all think about Aussie Open versus Latex Gods? Let's run through that one real quick.
Yeah.
What do y'all think? Shad?
you want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
Shad, what'd you think last night?
A great match, man. A great match.
Awesome.
Yeah, the match was great. Hey man, say what you want to say about Jericho. He performs in great matches when he needs to, regarding his age and all the factors of injury, his physique now. But dude still puts in work. Sammy, I always have a lot of respect for as an in-ring wrestler. Dude's great. And then the Aussie Open are an incredible tag team. So great match. But I will say this. I was a little tough on the idea of the Sex Gods reuniting. But now we have that wrench in the road where Sammy's not 100% with it because he has his doubts with Jericho. And I'm just curious to see, because if they can make this more of an actual serious angle where Jericho is like, come on, little bro, like, I have my best interest for you. I want you to strive. And Sammy is just back of his head, like, I can't trust you. I can't trust you. I can't trust you. I love you like a father figure. I just don't know if and then instead of them, obviously you can have them maybe continue to have these impromptu tag matches where they try to work it out. But it got me intrigued because I really think we need that payoff of a Jericho versus Sammy Guevara match. That's a big money match for all the years they have together. For Sammy being kind of the mentor, I think Jericho having that last match with him and putting over Sammy can do numbers for Sammy, and it's well deserved to Sammy. I think Sammy deserves that type of momentum and big time win over a mentor, and Danielson getting over Miyagi in that sense.
100%. I really love the way you sum that up too, and I agree. It's one of the situations where it felt a little bit like they really only nudged the story along like one link in the chain of the story, but the match was so quality, and coming out of it, there's definitely excitement. Anthony, are you in agreement on that too?
Yeah, and I said last week that this is like the Ross and Rachel of AEW. Will they, won't they? Eventually, they're going to go at it. I think coming out of it, though, my question is, who did Aussie Open piss off? Because you go from holding the Ring of Honor tag titles to losing on the biggest stage against technically a makeshift team. Who knows how long, Adam Cole and MJF are going to be a team. and now you lose to two guys that are at odds, and yet it's an established team that they're beating, that it's on the same page.
Ooh, I do get that complaint.
So I wonder, like, did they annoy somebody backstage? Because these two losses really don't make much sense, that they beat an established team. This isn't Dark Order. This is not this is a team that's held tag team gold recently, in fact. So I think that's a factor in this, of going, okay, well, what was the logic of having them beat Aussie Open, an established team that's had success? I don't fully get that.
I totally hear you, and I wonder if that's the
I agree with that point 100%. Also,
of availability.
Yeah,
that was the only thing I was going to add. Yeah, no, I hear, like, why Aussie Open. I wonder if that's the nature of availability, given the Wyndham Rotunda, the travel schedule we've seen out of All Out Chicago. A lot of talent left London to Chicago, had to adjust there. Go again. It's a lot to ask. I understand WWE schedule is off the charts and all of that. At the end of the day, I do wonder if Aussie Open was the best available workers that were willing to do it. And that just shows how good of pro wrestlers Aussie Open are. And if any team is strong enough to take a loss to Chris Jericho at the end of the day, in the middle of a storyline, and recover, I think Aussie Open will be fine. Right?
I think it's just the back-to-back aspect of it.
It is frustrating that it is too straight. And I do agree with that point. I think that's absolutely solid. With that, what day is it again, guys? I mean, it's Throwback Thursday.
TBT.
Throwback Thursday. And we got a sweet topic. We've got a real world champion topic. And many of you may be looking at me right now and thinking, what do you mean? That's this year. We've had Punk and MJF. That's not a throwback topic. That's not new. I don't understand. But those of you that weren't born in the early 90s or the late 80s, like the three of us on this panel, might not remember this has been done before. Anthony, I'm tossing it directly to you. Tell us about Styling Profiling, the Real World Championship making its debut.
Yeah, history tends to repeat itself. August of 1991, Flair was having a dispute with WCW at the time. WCW did not have their own world title. They used the NWA world title as their world championship. And back then, the NWA rule was whoever was the world champion had to give the NWA a $25,000 security deposit. It would go in a bank account to ensure that you would make all the dates that you're scheduled. And I believe you also earned interest. Well, when Flair had his dispute with WCW, they terminated him. Flair said, okay, I'll give you the belt back. I want my money back. Well, the NWA hadn't given the money back yet. So Flair debuted on WWF TV with Bobby Heenan as his manager with the big gold belt on WWF TV. To understand just how insane that is, that would be the equivalent of MJF showing up on SmackDown with the AEW World Championship. That's how insane that was. This predates Alundra Blaze showing up on Nitro with the women's title and throwing it in the trash. This predates Mike Awesome, who was the reigning ECW World Champion, jumping the WCW. He didn't have the belt with him. Paul Heyman put a court injunction in place to prevent that. Flair showing up, claiming to be the real world champion. And presumably the goal that everyone thought was, oh, well, he's got to be confronting the WWF champion, which was Hulk Hogan at the time. We never actually ended up getting that match during his entire short run in the 90s. There's various rumors and reasons. An official reason has never been said by WWE, as far as I know. The rumor was that they were scheduled for a WrestleMania match. Vince saw the house show matches that took place and went, this is garbage. I am not putting this on WrestleMania. That's why we ended up with Flair and Savage instead. We eventually did get Hogan and Flair. that wasn't until Bash at the Beach when Hogan went to WCW and Flair dropped the WCW championship to Hogan. But Flair jumping as world champion, ultimately when his career was done, a 16-time world champion. The funny part is, to this day, Flair disputes that number at various times. He says it's more than 16. I think he said it might be 21. And the NWA was a little goofy with their records keeping. They would do title changes and then went, never happened. But the funny part is, I have a couple Flair autographs. He signs them all 16 times. So I don't really think even he is 100% sure whether or not it's 21 or not. WWE's always acknowledged 16. WCW acknowledged the 14 for WCW. There was 2 WWF ones. And as Clark knows, one of my favorite pieces of memorabilia I have a piece of the ring mat from Flair's last match that he did a year ago. And out of 500 of them, and I swear to you, I did not know that I was going to get this number. Clark always appreciates this. We debate whether or not why Flair didn't want this himself. It's number 69. And I could confirm it. Clark, you could confirm that's the one I have.
That's true.
If you're going to have a Ric Flair one,
you got to
seems to be
6,
the one.
9. And the funniest to me is, could anyone in the history of wrestling get away with all of that? Where not only is this something that people literally forgot happened, it's something that is so right now, the idea of, and you have an article coming out that we're going to plug, obviously.
Yes.
But the idea of a title appearing on another show, Alundra Blaze, you mentioned, all of that.
Yes.
He's so explosive. Does anyone had a crazier career than the Rolex wearing, limousine riding, jet flying, where that's like a footnote? Like, this is such a fun and timely throwback topic.
Yes.
Sean, I'm going to toss it to you really quickly too before we go home here. But how wild is it? That dude he just did that. And it's not in the top 20 things we talk about when we talk about Ric Flair.
And bear in mind, one last thing, they did not pixelate the belt until after they made the settlement for the money.
Yeah,
it was
that's only on streaming services.
Yeah, you saw the belt, the big gold belt, and all its glimmering visuals. I mean, it's crazy, man. Like, especially like you talk about, and it's only fitting that Ric Flair would be the one to do that, because you talk about the master of just flexing and being that superstar. Like, that's the biggest flex you could do. Like, just imagine if like Roman Reigns left WWE with both belts and came to AEW or something like that. Like, the world would go crazy. And then, if granted, this was in 91, I think, right?
August of 91, yes.
August of 91. Imagine, long time ago, over 30 years ago. And you talk about it happening in the phase of like Twitter or like social media. I feel like it'd probably be just a bigger scale thing, but it's a huge flex, man. It's one of so many incredible and not incredible stuff Ric Flair has done in his time as a pro wrestler. And I mean, it's why that you hate him or love him, a lot of people put him in the Mount Rushmore for it, man. He's one of those guys that is always going to be visibly known for whatever he does, whether it be being a 16-time champion, all of that, or just being a fly guy and a flashy guy and flexing like he is.
I'm 100% with you. I only have one correction. It was not August of 91. It was September 9th, and I was 5 days old, that is. So I do remember. It was September 9th was the date of the debut, as far as I'm concerned.
They may have taped it in August.
They may have taped it in August. That is a debate for another time, though, my friends.
Oh, man.
Honestly, this has been such a fun edition of Throwback Thursday. As usual, we'll be back once again tomorrow, noon Pacific. I'll give you the times in a minute. If you haven't liked and subscribed,
I'll be on it.
Do that. Shot will be here. Are you, Anthony? Aren't you here too?
Not that I'm
Are you
aware of,
not?
unless you call me tomorrow.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the schedule. I'm sorry. That's terrible, by the way. Shad is on the show for sure. Anthony's a maybe, hard maybe, as we know right now. I'm kidding. Honestly, thank you guys again, everyone, guys, girls, everyone that attended today's show. It was delightful. Throwback Thursday, like, subscribe. It helps us out immensely. If you're ever on Spotify, a cheeky 5-star review, as our good friend Ben likes to say. And with that, it's been another edition of Throwback Thursday.
One last thing, Clark.
One more.
I do have an article that I believe is going up tomorrow, talking about CM Punk with the Real World's title and a fantasy book on how, if he goes to WWE, how it should get played out.
And if you don't check that out, you're just not a fan.
Especially what we just talked about.
Yeah, you're just not a fan. If you don't check the article out, you're just not a fan. Also, Wrestling Off the Air on Tuesday, sold separately, new episode coming soon, all of that stuff. Let's plug everything.
Yes.
Take it to the table, too. I was just on that like 2 days ago. I mean,
Chaos is
it's been a big week for WR. And now we're off the air.